Hey, it's December! Time for another action figure adventures video here on SEO Toy Review. Today, Baby Skeletor and I are taking a look at some custom Arctic G.I. Joes I made several years ago. I've been into making custom G.I. Joe figures since I was about 10 years old. Now, I really don't do it much anymore, but for a while I was really into it. It was a big part of my G.I. Joe collecting hobby. I would say, like from middle school through high school. As I was collecting characters I needed, I was also snatching up cheap duplicates or replacing and upgrading figures, and so I had a lot of extra parts and extra figures. And so I got into this hobby of kit bashing. In the beginning I made a lot of brand new characters. Later on I kind of decided I enjoyed it more when I was making like an alternate version of the real characters. So you'll notice today that this Arctic themed video is all custom G.I. Joe figures I made of regular Joe characters in winter gear. I think a big part of my interest in Arctic gear G.I. Joe figures is G.I. Joe the movie. Once the G.I. Joe cartoon show was off the air, the G.I. Joe movie became the only media I had to watch the G.I. Joes in action. I had a VHS copy of it and watched it quite frequently. The movie had a great voice cast and amazing animation, so that early battle in the snow is definitely a big influence on these figures. We're going to start by taking a look at this Arctic Stalker. I know that there's already an Arctic Stalker figure. There were two different variations of this mold, but as a kid, or sort of in my mind, I like guys to wear uniforms that are like era specific, and so to me this is a certain time period in G.I. Joe history, whereas using the original head is a younger Stalker, the original Stalker. So it just kind of depends on what I'm going for. But if you read the G.I. Joe comics as a kid, you know, issue 2 with the first appearance of Quinn is in the snow, and that's a big part of the inspiration for this figure. This figure is a Stalker head on a snow job body. The snow job was somewhat yellowed, so I sort of dry brushed him white to kind of hide some of the areas where there was a little bit of yellowing on his arms here. Like I tried to get the rivets to look more white. I painted the scarf piece army green. I painted his beret white. I painted his boots black and the little holster here, just to kind of make him stand out a little bit. He's got a weapon pack Stalker gun and a weapon pack roadblock backpack repainted. I definitely like to give my custom figures plenty of gear. The original 82-83 Joes didn't have enough accessories, I don't think. Everybody should have had a gun, everybody should have had a backpack. So this Stalker, I kind of fixed that a little bit. You know, Arctic missions, you're going to need food, you're going to need shelter, you're going to need some supplies. So that's my Arctic Stalker figure. Sticking with those early Joe characters, this is my Arctic Grand Slam figure. Again, this uses a snow job body with a Grand Slam torso and head. So the Grand Slam torso had to be painted white on all the green areas, and then his pads were painted a nice ice blue color. I added some blue details to the legs, black boots. His arms, I think, probably were dry brushed, like I said, like Stalker's. I just sort of tried to hide some yellowiness that was going on this beat-up snow job I took apart. I gave him a scrap iron gun from the weapon pack because, like I said, all Joes need a backpack and a gun. His helmet is actually a weapon pack mutt helmet. There's actually a little damage right there I gotta touch up sometime. I didn't have any spare visors, and I kind of hated wrecking an 82-83 helmet, so I switched him over to the goggles. Gives a little bit of a Hoth feel to him that way too, from Star Wars. And his jump jetpack, specially modified for the cold weather, kind of like the Rebel Snowspeeders, is actually just a weapon pack scuba tank from a Cobra Eel. Let's see, take his backpack off, you can see his back harness there. On those early Joes, because it was inspired by the comic, I kind of like them to look like they're in full snowsuits, but these later 80s figures, because they're more inspired by the movie, I want them to look like themselves, but in like snow coats. So this figure is Arctic Footloose. He's got his normal camo pants, he's got his normal head, but he has a frostbite torso. Pretty easy custom there. He has a gun here. This is a weapon pack leatherneck gun that I painted up. I didn't have Footloose's actual gun, like a spare one, but this is a pretty good stand-in. Here's his weapon pack backpack, painted white with a few of the details picked out on it. Same thing goes for his helmet, weapon pack helmet painted white with the leaves. I decided to paint them gray because I thought brown might look weird. And I think I touched up the paint on here a little bit, dry brushed the arms a little to hide the Snowcat badge kind of thing that's on Frostbite's chest there. So I think this one's pretty cool. I'd actually done a thing for like a blog post years ago on an old website that's defunct now, where I needed an Arctic General Hawk, and I did this exact thing, but it was like not permanent. I just put a chest on Hawk to make him look like he was in snow gear. And so that sort of inspired this. I think I painted his chest there too, just to make his shirt look like Footloose's regular shirt. Next up, we've got Arctic Beachhead. Beachhead is my favorite G.I. Joe character, so I needed an Arctic update of him. I had a lot of Beachheads laying around because his waist piece breaks all the time, and I have a lot of Frostbite parts because his legs are some of the only legs in the toy line that don't have holsters on them. So when I was buying figures to use for customizing as a kid and as a teenager, I used to snag them all the time for making like civilian or non-combat people. So he has Frostbite arms. I did paint his gloves black because Beachhead wears black gloves, and I thought it gave him a little bit of variation from the Footloose figure. I had to paint Beachhead's shirt white here to make it look like he's wearing this winter parka with his tactical vest over top of it. I did have to do a little dry brushing on his arm here to hide the patch that Frostbite has on one of his arms. And then for his legs, because Beachhead's waist piece breaks all the time, these are actually big brawler legs from the early 2000s, really, like the Outback sculpt. I did not put the flashlight on because I feel like it makes it too obvious that they're not Beachhead's real legs. But this was my workaround for the broken waist. And then all his gear is weapon pack gear. So he has his submachine gun, he has his backpack, and he has his ammo satchel. The satchel was painted white, and the clips were painted the same gray as his torso and his gun. And then here's his backpack painted white. And then I just picked out the little grappling hook piece and the crossbow to be painted up details. And I usually put my satchel on the backpack peg for Beachhead. And there we go, Arctic Beachhead. And then 85 Snake Eyes, everybody's favorite figure, super popular character, great action figure, and I think that this update with Arctic gear really worked well. So he's got a timber, which is not unmodified. He's got his sword and backpack, and I couldn't bring myself to paint the backpack white. I couldn't wreck Snake Eyes gear. So he's got a regular backpack. I had a Snake Eyes head and torso somehow early on as a kid. I found it at like a yard sale or something like that, or I may have had Snake Eyes arms but with broken thumbs or something like that. And I grabbed it because it was the only Snake Eyes, 85 Snake Eyes I had. And so I had made like a custom figure, using other parts, and it wasn't great, but at least I could pretend it was 85 Snake Eyes. So eventually when I got an 85 Snake Eyes, I had this head and torso, and I came up with this idea. So it's Frostbite legs, black boots, Frostbite arms, and that Snake Eyes, 85 Snake Eyes torso and head. So I painted the torso white to make it match the arms, and the color wasn't perfect. Like his chest was so white, and the arms were a little bit, maybe slightly yellowed, but I didn't want to paint everything. So I ended up kind of, to make them blend a little bit more, adding this blue striping. Just a little bit of camouflage, just a little something to make him interesting, make him stand out from the crowd. He does have his gloves painted black. You can see a little bit of paint chipping right there. I got to touch him up sometime. And someday I'll find an Uzi laying around to give him to complete his look. And then because the best time to play with your Arctic Joes is on a snow day, I've got a couple of outdoor pictures of these guys in the snow. Thanks for watching this action figure adventures. Do Baby Skeletor a favor, hit that like and subscribe button.